How much are Mormon clergy paid? For generations, the church made misleading statements about whether its senior clergy actually received any compensation. I did a complete breakdown of those misleading statements right here, and I encourage you to check it out. But now that the Mormon church has been forced to come clean about its compensation for senior church leaders, let's dive deep into how much they really receive. Now, the church is not externally audited and has almost no transparency regarding its finances. But never fear, dear viewer, we are going to use the best available information to bring you up to speed. And the best available information comes from our friends over there at the Widow's Mite Report. The Widow's Mite Report is research and analysis on the state of wealth in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They have a number of reports and studies related to LDS Church finances, including annual reports, income and expenditures, church property holdings, temples, investments, and much, much more. Today we're going to focus on general authority compensation. So what does the LDS Church pay its most senior clergy? But before we get into that, I'm Dives, the host of the Mormon News Roundup, and yes, that's talent on loan from Kolob. So folks at the local level of the Mormon Church are evidently not compensated. I'm talking about bishops and stake presidents who would be roughly the equivalent of a cardinal. Senior church leaders are compensated, and you can see a chart here of those who probably are. Namely, the first presidency at the top, the quorum of the 12 apostles, the presiding bishopric, and some members of the quorum of the 70. To the best of my knowledge, church officers are not compensated, meaning that the Relief Society president and others here on the right, meaning that those Relief Society presidents and primary presidents do not receive monetary remuneration or a living stipend. So what does the LDS Church pay its most senior clergy? For 2025, it was $183,000 in equivalent taxable salary for the living allowance offered to the LDS Church's 120 general authorities. With vehicle and per child allowance, we estimate general authority compensation at $194K plus retirement and health benefits. Apostles may receive extra perks. These payments have historically risen by 3.1% each year, roughly matching long-term inflation. The Widow's Mite Report estimates that the church will spend $31 million on general authority compensation in 2025, with about $21 million on base allowance and $10 million on benefits. And here's a chart with the direct compensation for general authorities, with base living allowance and parsonage included. Those graph bars that are in dark blue are times where the Widow's Mite Report has documented pay information about general authorities. And that's why they're able to extrapolate a 3.1% per annum growth rate for church compensation. Church employment appears to adhere to a tiered corporate salary hierarchy. Employees with more tenure receive higher salaries for similar jobs. And I might note that all of this is footnoted over there on their website. General authorities are paid more than all other employee cohorts. A few affiliate employees, such as BYU coaches, earn far more than GAs. The GA allowance, the taxable equivalent, is 85% higher than the median Utah household income and 2 times higher than the average church employee salary. And here is that base pay of LDS Church employees and general authorities. As you can see, the more time that you spent working for Mormon Incorporated, the larger your take-home pay. As this chart demonstrates, even if you've been a long-serving church employee, you are still not compensated at the same level as general authorities. The church and affiliates have approximately 23,000 full-time equivalent employees. Across the LDS Church and its affiliates, total employee counts increased to 4% in 2023. Since 2015, church retirement benefits have been transitioning from a defined benefit or pension to a defined contribution 401k plan. Not all eligible employees elect health benefits. All employees are auto-enrolled in the 401k plan. Based on federal filings, the Widow's Mite Report estimates about 25,000 total employees at the church and its affiliates, or about 23,000 FTE employees. And this chart shows the total church employment indicators, enrollment in benefit plans for church and all of its for-profit and non-for-profit affiliated entities. As you can see, the number of people who are enrolled in the pension plan has been steadily falling, and that's due to the transition from pension to 401k beginning in about 2015. Active pension participants declined due to natural attrition and targeted pension buyouts. Church and affiliate total employees. The Widow's Mite report estimates the full-time equivalent employees by operating division, approximated based on the 2014 through 2023 Department of Labor Form 5500 filings. And you can see that at church headquarters, that's about 13,000 employees. That's for administration, finance, IT, HR, marketing, and et cetera, et cetera. And in the investment farms, there's about 600 employees. In seminaries and institutes, about 1,500. The BYU system, namely BYU Provo, BYU Hawaii, BYU Idaho, BYU Pathways, and Ensign College, it's about 7,000 employees. In smaller for-profit companies, such as City Creek Reserve, Utah Property Management Association, the Polynesian Cultural Center, and others, there's about 700 employees. And the Deseret Management Corporation, which is the church's umbrella corporation for its for-profit entities, which includes Bonneville Communications, Deseret Book, Temple Square Hospitality, and more, there's about 1,000 employees. Church employment age cohorts, 60% are over the age of 45. So this chart shows the church and church affiliate employment. This is the percentage of all employees at or below the listed age range. And as you can see, church employment tends to skew just a little older, with 60% of church employees being over the age of 45. That's also reflected in this particular chart here, where employee distribution by age range is produced in a circle graph. Again, many church employees are between the ages of 40 and 59. Almost half of church employees fall within that range. This chart shows the church employment tenure, or cohorts, with 50% are over 10 years. So the church does an excellent job of retaining its employees. And this pie chart shows the employee distribution by tenured years of credited service. And you can see that about half of church employees have greater than 10 years of credited service. Now, let's look at the tenure of current general authorities as of December of 2024. Here we see the years as a full-time general authority, with the first presidency all around 40 years. We can also see the quorum of the 12 apostles by seniority. And you can see that a lot of the apostles are around that 20 years of service or even higher. The presiding bishopric has just a little less service, and general authority 70s are just a little less. There's a total of 102 general authority 70s. And again, those are fully compensated employees for the church. Let's take a look at what part of the general authority salaries are actually taxable. About 25% or $42K of the living allowance that general authorities received is classified as parsonage, or housing for clergy members. Parsonage is not counted as taxable income, but the remainder of the general authority living allowance is taxed at the federal and state level. Parsonage is basically a carve-out for full-time clergy in the United States, wherein they don't have to pay taxes on their living accommodations. Mormon church leaders take full advantage of this. Standard healthcare and retirement benefits are generally not counted as taxable income. The per child up to age 24 allowance, estimated to be about $4,000 per year in 2025, is also taxable income. Payroll stubs show several deductions for supplemental insurance, suggesting general authority benefits such as healthcare and disability mirror typical corporate plans. Let's take a look at some of the payroll stubs that have been leaked from general authorities and see what we can learn from that. From the year 2000, we have a pay summary here from Henry B. Eyring. About 20% of the allowance is classified as parsonage, which is tax exempt. The remainder of living allowance is taxed as income. There are 4 deductions highlighted in blue that are for employee-paid additional insurance coverage. And again, the church's pension plan is managed by DMBA. Here's another pay stub from 2002, this time from Joseph Worthland. Here we see that 23% of the allowance is classified as parsonage, or tax exempt. The remainder of living allowance is taxed as income, offset by 2 pre-tax deductions. 5 deductions are highlighted in blue and are for employee-paid additional insurance coverage. And when it says DMBA insurance for COP, I assume that means Corporation of the President. Now, back in 2014, the Widow's Mite report estimates that there were about 21,000 full-time church employees who were not general authorities who were participating in the defined benefit program or pension program. Now, 10 years ago, that average salary was around $63,000 per year. If we fast forward to 2022, that number has shrunk down to only 12,000 full-time church employees who are not general authorities who participate in the defined benefit program or pension program. And the average salary of these 12,000 employees is about $92,000 per year. But just as a quick note, that $92,000 per year for those who are participating in the pension program is not indicative of the average church salary during this time frame, which is about $75,000 to $80,000 per year. And folks, there you have it. That's a quick sum up of Latter-day Saint general authority compensation. As I mentioned previously, the church made many misleading statements both over the pulpit, in its official periodicals, and in its official videos, including the 1973 Meet the Mormons film, that there were no paid clergy in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I demonstrated that those statements were absolutely factually in error. Or you could say that the church was being incredibly dishonest. Or to cut to the chase, you could just say that the church lied for generations. And like I said, it's because of these leaked documents that were brought to us from Mormon leaks and people like the Widow's Mite report that forced the church to finally come clean that yes, some of the senior church leaders are given what the church calls a modest living allowance. As the Widow's Mite report demonstrates, that modest allowance is far in excess of almost all regular church employees and over twice the average salary of those who work in Utah. I find it very remarkable that the church won't just come clean about its general authority compensation. Why doesn't the Mormon church just tell us exactly how much these gentlemen make? Now, I've heard many apologists like those over at Word Radio or others say that some of these general authorities forego compensation and just volunteer their services for Mormon Incorporated. Those are claims that would need some evidence, and I've seen zero evidence of that. Now, of course, because the Mormon Church is not externally audited, we can't have 100% confidence by the data that's given to us by these watchdog agencies like the Widow's Mite report. However, this is the best available information that we have, and I have a high degree of confidence in their work. Let me know your thoughts about Mormon Church General Authority compensation. Are they paid too much or too little? Let me know your thoughts below. Thanks so much for joining us on another edition of the Mormon News Roundup. Please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And remember, no unhallowed hand can stop this podcast from progressing.
When it comes to nicknames of the church, such as LDS Church, the Mormon Church, to remove the Lord's name from the Lord's church is a major victory for Satan.
Satan.